Hey Heather, this is a bit of a follow-up to what we talked about on Thursday with Nan. We'll go through this in three parts. So the first part is just to show you how the highlighting works with Read and Write for Google and what that could potentially look like for your students. And the second part is showing you a bit about versioning and what versioning could look like when you have a student turn in something via a Google form. And then the last part would be what the versioning would look like if you had them turn it in Canvas. So start off with this document. I've made a copy of one of your students' documents, and really, if you activate Read and Write for Google, it'll come up at the top there. And Read and Write for Google is probably the fastest way to have kids learn how to highlight something within a document, just because it provides those four quick colors. You can also do text highlighting through here. I think it's a little bit more complicated because it kind of convolutes the text color with the highlight color, and that can be a little bit too much to explain. So let's say that you pretty much you have these four options up there, and you wanted to say to students that you want them to find transition phrases or transitional devices within this document, and you want those to be green. So if a student comes down and says, like in the beginning, for example, that's a transitional device, we can highlight that green. You just highlight the word and then or the phrase and then tap the color up at the top. And we can find a whole bunch of those. So as you want students to do that, you can have them highlight and click up there. It's pretty easy to do. The other part is maybe you want them to find the claim in a document or something like that. They can highlight that whole section and then be able to click on a different color. And again, it's pretty simple to do. If they want to back it up, they can basically just go over here and choose undo if they make a mistake and redo if they want to bring it back on there. So that's how the highlighting works in Read and Write for Google. Hopefully that seems a bit simple. Okay, for this next part, I want to show you a little bit about how versioning works in a Google document. So I'm actually on one of your students' Google Docs right now. And above bold, italics, and underline, there is a section where you can see Last Edit. If you click on Last Edit, it'll open up all of the revision history, basically, and all the different edits that have happened on this document. So all the way back to December 2nd, there was nothing on there. And then December 2nd, 10 minutes later, there was some words and a paragraph. So you can kind of watch the development of a document move, if that makes sense. So basically what I've done right now is I've gone back in time and I've taken this document to where it was a couple weeks ago, and we're going to pretend that this is a checkpoint and you want students to turn this in. So what a student would do is upon your instruction, you would say, okay, I want to see a version of your document, so go ahead and push File, Download As, and download it as a Word document. Once they download it as a Word document, it goes down here, and then you'll have a Google form then set up like this. And this Google form is set up to have them basically just upload the file in here. And then when they're uploading that file, it's basically a snapshot of where their essay is at a certain time. So I'll go ahead and type my name in there. I'll choose a period, and then I'll push Add File. And what happens is it opens up this little dialog box, and I can drag this file, and the students could do this on a Chromebook too, just the same as on my Mac. And they'll put it in here, and basically what happens is it asks them to submit, and it attaches that particular document on there. And I'll go ahead and push Submit. So once that document is submitted, now what happens for you on your end is that you have a record of this particular document in your responses section. So what happens then if I go ahead and view the folder, it opens up for me, and then basically what I can see is I can see a version of every student's document at a certain time. So when I open this up and just kind of click on it just for a preview, I can see how this has happened. So I can see that it's named it actually for me based upon me being the person who submitted it. And if I had a number of these, I could kind of scroll through them and just see them kind of almost like a slideshow here if I wanted. So that's kind of how that would look inside of Google Forms. I can also then use this Google form to create a spreadsheet. I know I'm going kind of fast here, but a lot of this stuff isn't all that complicated to create, so I could certainly help you with that. So basically what happens in the spreadsheet here is that you have the student's name, they selected which period, and they also have a link to the document that the student turned in over here. So in the spreadsheet, you can see them and they're pretty well organized. So if you want to see a version of that student's work, you can go to that spreadsheet and be able to see it that way. And it pops up pretty nicely. And the benefit of that then is inside the spreadsheet, you can see the timestamp here. And then if I come up again at a different time with another document at a different checkpoint, you can basically use the exact same Google form and a student can turn it in again with a different version. So let's say that I go back over to this document and I want to take it to final draft stage, and maybe this is the next checkpoint or something like that. So I'm going to click on that one and restore this version. And this is the actual final draft for the student then. Student will go over to the corner there and push File, Download As, and then we'll choose Microsoft Word for that. Do the same thing, we'll push Save. It's going to kick down another document there. And I'm going to head over to that Google form and submit another response. In this case, again, I'm going to go ahead and type my own name. I'm still in first period, and I'm going to add a new file. The new file that I add is my updated version of this particular document. I slide it into there, and then go ahead and push Submit. What happens for me then is on my spreadsheet, I will see another response come through like I just did, and then it shows me the link to that particular document. So I can see the two versions from this student pretty close to being right next to each other. So now I can see that this one's obviously much longer and there's more to it. And at any point in time, I can go through and organize this. What's nice about it in the long run then is you'll also be able to filter, for example, by student name. So if you had lots of students in here and you just wanted to check the submissions of one particular student, you would be able to see those submissions. You are also able to, if you wanted to, because they've been turned in this way, on your computer, you're able to batch print, for example, all of these documents. So if you wanted to print them all, you'd be able to print them all basically in one fell swoop without having to take the kids down to the lab. So hopefully that helps you understand a little bit more about what that would be like. You really would just have a Google form with 3 questions on it, and then you would have the students turn things into that particular Google form. The next part, I'll show you what it looks like in Canvas. Okay, coming over in Canvas then, we have just an assignment that's called Google Docs Versioning and Highlighting. Pretty simple assignment. Basically, I've chosen Online and File Uploads, which is what you'd have to choose in order to get it going. And then I'll go ahead and push Save and Publish. What this will do then is give students in the class the ability to push the Submit Assignment button once they come to the assignment. And once they push the Submit Assignment button, because File Upload has been chosen, Google Doc is an option. So go ahead and click on Google Doc. What happens is it accesses my Google Drive. My Google Drive has all kinds of crazy stuff in it, so students won't be as complicated. Basically, they go down and find the document that they want to submit, and this particular document is what's in there, so they can choose that Google document. And what happens when they choose that Google document is you can submit it, and it turns that Google document actually into a snapshot of a document. So as a teacher, then when I go to SpeedGrader, where I would grade these, I click on SpeedGrader and I have all my students in here. And basically, what happens is here's the document right away, and this one looks like the final draft version of it. But let's say that I go ahead and I want to do this whole versioning thing like you were doing before. And let me go ahead and go back to this particular Google document, and let's go and revert it to a much earlier version and kind of simulate what it would be like if you were asking students to turn this in at different intervals. So let's say that this is more of a formative one right here, and you would like a snapshot of this particular version of it. What I could do as a student then, and I don't have to do any of the downloading that I had to do before for Google Forms. I basically just go over to Canvas as soon as you tell me to as a teacher. And when I get here, I go to Submit Assignment. Yeah, I choose Google Doc. And then it opens up my Google Docs, or at least provides a list of my Google Docs. So I go into here and choose that Google document again and push Submit. And it will submit another copy of that. So then if I switch back over into teacher mode, looking at it in SpeedGrader, I get to the student and I have 2 versions of this. I have version number 1, which is the rough draft, and it obviously looks a little bit like it needs some work. I can still provide comments and highlight information in here, very similar to the way I would in Google Docs. So I can highlight information, I can draw on the text and that kind of thing. And I can create comments as well. So if I choose to create comments that way, or I can highlight to create comments. So I can do text comments, for example, by clicking here and then being able to type into this section. Okay, so that might be the first draft here. And then if the student turned it in later, I can click over here and see that the second draft will come over right away. So I can see pretty distinctly in Canvas very quickly based on a student, here's the rough draft, and I want to go look at, here's the final draft. And I can move back and forth between the rough draft and the final draft pretty quickly. So that's what that process would look like in Canvas. Probably a little harder to set up to start off with, but much, much cleaner on the back end when you're actually trying to assess the work. Again, let me know if you need help with any of this, or if you're interested in learning a little bit more. I'm more than happy to come by on numerous occasions and help you out with it, and I can always help out with these types of things remotely.